Thank you.
All right, and thanks to you at home for joining us this hour. Really happy to have you here. Happy Monday night. One quick bit of housekeeping before we get into it tonight. I mentioned on the show last week that I've got the paperback version of my latest book coming out. Prequel is coming out in paperback the first week in May, which is very nice. The nicest thing about it is I get to go do some live events. Get out in the country, meet people, talk about what's going on in the country, talk about the book. Hopefully, the subtitle of Prequel is An American Fight Against Fascism, so there's lots of overlap between the news and the book. But when I mentioned this last week, I described, I gave out the details for 3 of the planned stops on this little mini book tour I'm going to do. I mentioned Miami and St. Louis, Missouri, and Long Island, New York. Now, unfortunately, Miami and St. Louis sold out like instantly as soon as I mentioned it on the show. So lots of people who wanted tickets could not get them. And I feel bad about that. I feel like it was my bad planning that we ran out of tickets. And so I'm sorry about that. Miami and St. Louis both sold out, but we are making 2 changes as of tonight. First, as of tonight, they are apparently changing the configuration of the seats that they are selling at the venue in Long Island. So even though Long Island was within like a handful of seats of being sold out, as of tonight, they have now opened up a huge new bunch of tickets for Long Island. So there's a bunch more tickets available Long Island, Friday, May 9th. And we have also added a whole new event. Wednesday, May 7th, Boston, Massachusetts. And this one, specifically because we are trying to not sell out, this one is a gigantic venue. So I don't think there's any chance the Boston event will sell out. I feel really bad when people want to come and they can't. But if you want to come to that one, Wednesday, May 7th, Boston, Massachusetts, tickets on sale as of right now. So to get tickets and to get all the details, you can use your phone to scan that square link thing there on the screen. You just put it on the camera on your phone and look at it, and then it gives you a link and you click it. Or you can just go online to msnbc.com/prequel. But again, the dates that still have tickets are Wednesday, May 7th in Boston, Friday, May 9th in Long Island, New York. Tickets available for both as of right now. So that's it. That's the Prequel paperback coming out first week of May. All right, housekeeping done. Now, let's get to it. In Silicon Valley, in the Northern California towns of Palo Alto and Menlo Park and Redwood City, there is something going on with the crosswalks. And not like the part of the street that's blocked off where you walk across in the crosswalk, but actually at the pole on the corner. You know, when you want to cross with the light, you get to the crosswalk, you push the button on the pole to tell the system that you want to cross. Northern California is one of the places where when you push that button, an automated voice usually activates, right? Telling you to wait until it is safe to walk. But in these at least 3 Silicon Valley towns as of this weekend, this is what started happening when you hit the crosswalk button. Instead of the normal automated voice telling you to wait until it was safe to walk, instead this other thing now happens. And I want to tell you before you hear this, this is not the real voice of Elon Musk.
Wait. Hi, this is Elon Musk. Welcome to Palo Alto, the home of Tesla engineering. You know, they say money can't buy happiness, and yeah, okay. I guess that's true. God knows I've tried. But it can buy a Cybertruck, and that's pretty sick, right? Right? I'm so alone.
Says at the end there, F word, I'm so alone. That is obviously not the real voice of Elon Musk. It appears to be an AI-generated audio clone of Elon Musk's voice. People have apparently somehow hacked into the crosswalk systems in this handful of towns in Silicon Valley, so that in these towns, when you push the crosswalk button, you get a message like that one, or one like this.
Hi, I'm Elon. Can we be friends? Will you be my friend? I'll give you a Cybertruck, I promise. Okay, look, you don't know the level of depravity I would stoop to just for a crumb of approval. I mean, let's be real. It's not like I had any moral convictions to begin with, right?
Again, that is not Elon Musk's actual voice. Somebody has apparently used AI to make these fake messages that sound like Elon Musk's voice. There's another one that says, "Hi, this is Elon Musk. I'd like to personally welcome you to Palo Alto. You know, people keep saying cancer is bad, but have you ever tried being a cancer? It's effing awesome." There's another with a fake A voice that sounds like President Trump, and the Musk voice starts talking about how he feels about Trump, and then the Trump voice interrupts and says, "Sweetie, come back to bed." That one's super creepy. There's also a couple of these things that feature not Elon Musk, but instead the fake voice of Mark Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg in these fake AI-generated recordings, claiming credit for undermining democracy and making life miserable for trans people, and quote, "cooking our grandparents' brains with AI slop." So there's been reporting on this from NBC7 in the Bay Area and the San Francisco Chronicle and Palo Alto Online, and also from The Verge. Everybody basically trying to figure out how this was done, how you hack into these crosswalk systems, and who might have done it. I don't think anybody's trying to figure out why they did it. Motive seems pretty obvious. May I also introduce you to the free Tesla debadging station that was set up this weekend in Seattle, Washington. Now, there was an anti-Trump, anti-Elon Musk protest this weekend at a Tesla dealership in Seattle. There's been a bunch of these in Seattle in recent weeks, of course. There were a bunch more all over the country this weekend, and even today. We'll get to that in a second. But at the Seattle Tesla dealership anti-Trump, anti-Musk protest this weekend, they did something a little different. People also showed up there and set up what they called a free debadging station for your Tesla, for people with, quote, Tesla regret. How do you take the badge, meaning like the emblem, off your Tesla? Well, you use a heat gun or a hair dryer to warm it up, soften it up. Then you use some fishing line to basically kind of cut through the adhesive on the back of the emblem. Then after you've pulled it off, you use like Goo Gone or rubbing alcohol, some other kind of solvent, to take off the rest of the adhesive that's left behind. That's the hardest part. But then you don't anymore have Tesla badges on your car. And in the case of this free Tesla debadging clinic in Seattle this weekend, they also were apparently happy to stick on a replacement car emblem from a totally different car company if you, say, wanted to pretend that your Tesla is now an Audi, or frankly any other brand of car that isn't, you know, associated with the authoritarian takeover and destruction of the United States government. We'll turn your Tesla into something that doesn't look like a Tesla. Free. And you see they've got that sign there in the upper right, says Tesla regret, and it's got a toll-free number and then a website. If you call the toll-free number associated with the free debadging Tesla regret effort, there actually is an answer at that line. It sounds like it's the kind of thing that you'd encounter if you called a toll-free number for a pharmaceutical product or for like medical advice or something, but it's actually a recording to help you handle your own Tesla regret syndrome. Tesla regret syndrome, TRS.
TRS is a condition afflicting tens of thousands of Tesla owners. It's characterized by persistent feelings of deep discomfort when driving a Tesla you bought because you cared about the future, only to find that the CEO is a fascist megalomaniac out to destroy the U.S. government and sell it for parts, then enrich himself with contracts to do some of the same work. Please listen carefully to the following treatment options before making a selection. If you own a Tesla and aren't sure why you should sell, press 1. If you can't afford to sell your older Tesla, press 2. If you are simply attached to your Tesla and don't want to sell, press 3. If you own a Cybertruck, it's probably best for you to hang up now and deal with the latest recall.
If you own a Cybertruck, it's probably best for you to hang up now and deal with the latest recall. The press 1, press 2, press 3 options, those are real. They actually they connect you to, if you press 1 because you're not sure if you should sell your Tesla, you get a recording explaining that it will make a difference because if you sell your Tesla, because flooding the market with used Teslas will bring down the price of all Teslas. It will make them all lose value, even the new ones. If you press 2 because you want to sell your older Tesla, but you can't afford to, You get a recording saying, sometimes you're not in a place to sell your car, that's understandable. Do your best, though, to charge it home so Musk gets no money out of you. And please come to a peaceful Tesla takedown protest when you can. We promise you won't be the only Tesla driver there. So that's if you press 1 or if you press 2. If you press 3, they say press 3 if you are simply attached to your Tesla and don't want to sell. This is the recording that you get.
We're sorry. Doing the right thing is hard sometimes. Sadly, we can't fix that. But we can tell you that people who choose to completely excise Tesla from their lives report feelings of calm, satisfaction, and even profound well-being. Both because no one glares at them anymore when they get in and out of their cars, and because they feel connected to a broader effort to rescue our democracy.
The Tesla Regret Syndrome Hotline. So Seattle, Washington really kicking it up a notch as of this weekend by pairing their anti-Trump, anti-Musk protests outside Tesla dealerships now with free Tesla emblem removal for any Tesla car and a free hotline to call to get help with your Tesla regret syndrome. There were hundreds of people at an anti-Trump, anti-Musk protest at the Tesla dealership this weekend in Columbus, Ohio. There were hundreds more in Tucson, Arizona at the Tesla dealership there. There were scrappy anti-Tesla, anti-Trump, anti-Musk protests, including some in bad weather in Little Hadley, Massachusetts, at North Phoenix in Arizona, at the Tesla dealership in Stanford, California, at the Stanford Mall, and this one at Grand Rapids, Michigan, which was just at lunchtime today. In Memphis, Tennessee this weekend, there was a big protest against Trump and Musk, including a specific beef with Elon Musk in that city that's starting to get people really mobilized and really fired up in Memphis, Tennessee in particular. Watch.
Protesters in Memphis on Saturday say they're concerned about government leaders and their decisions and gathered together to take a stand.
This is about connecting people, connecting the community. When I look around, I see, like I said, a lot of different age groups, but it's going to take more than that. It's going to take connecting with all people who feel as though their voices aren't being heard.
People held signs saying protect your rights, education is right for all, protect immigrants, and more.
I would like to see us get back to the values that made us a great country, the ones that are outlined in our Constitution. I'd like to see us follow it.
The hands-off movement hopes to remove leaders they believe are making harmful decisions, reverse the damage, and reclaim democracy.
For here in Memphis, we've got a lot of issues with XAI, with Musk coming in and unilaterally making decisions that are dangerous to Memphians.
People are hoping for a real change.
I think this administration is so steeped in lies that people are beginning to believe those lies, and we've got to get back to a place where the truth actually matters.
The reference there to damage being done in Memphis, Tennessee in particular, is about another one of Elon Musk's companies that doesn't get as much attention, XAI, his artificial intelligence company, which is apparently running a supercomputer facility in Memphis that's getting a lot of people there upset. They are using gas-powered turbines to power that facility, turbines for which they reportedly do not have permits. And the resulting air pollution concerns there led not just to that protest this weekend that you saw in Memphis, but also to a packed town hall with the city's mayor, who has essentially been defending the company and taking a lot of heat for it. Also another packed town hall with other local Memphis leaders who are definitely not defending Musk's company, and some of them are saying that they want XAI shut down in Memphis as a public health menace. All of those concerns dovetailing in the great city of Memphis, Tennessee. But, I mean, all across the country, the protests are not going away. There's more and more of these to cover every single week. Look at this one, this big one at Little Rock, Arkansas, at the state capitol this weekend. This is Arkansas this weekend. This was also another big one in Johnson City, Tennessee. A big turnout there at the protest in Johnson City, Tennessee this weekend. They also did a food drive in conjunction with their protest, since Trump, of course, has cut support to food banks. This was Laguna Beach, California yesterday, in Southern California. This was yesterday at the Wisconsin State Capitol, a big crowd protesting cuts to the VA and services for veterans in Wisconsin. Same goes in little Manistique, Michigan. On the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, Michiganders there protesting the cuts to veterans care in Michigan. This was Medina, Ohio on Saturday. Hundreds of people protesting in Medina. This was just an hour away outside the Geauga County Jail in Chardon, Ohio, where people protested against what Trump is doing to immigrants. This was a vigil and protest for immigrants and their families in little Elizabethtown, New York, yesterday in the Adirondacks. This was a march in Tennessee at the state capitol today. People wearing mortarboards like it's graduation, standing up for immigrant kids and their families who are being targeted by Republicans in Tennessee state government. We're aping some of what Trump is doing at the federal level. This was today in Washington, D.C., people protesting against Trump shipping people from this country to that foreign dungeon in El Salvador with no legal process whatsoever. We're going to have more on that subject in a moment. This, too, was Washington, D.C. today, federal workers protesting against Trump's massive and indiscriminate cuts to the U.S. government. And then, of course, there were the couple that you might have heard about even before I started talking tonight. The two massive, just massive anti-Trump rallies that were held by Senator Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Look at this. Last night in Salt Lake City, Utah, deep, deep red Utah. They booked a 15,000 seat arena thinking, well, they'd be safe there, right? They'd be fine with a venue that size. They'd never fill that up. Well, they ended up filling all 15,000 seats in that arena. Then another 1,000 people packed onto the floor. Then 4,000 more people on top of that crowded outside the arena when they couldn't get in. They turned out 20,000 people in Utah last night. And frankly, that 20,000 turnout in Utah last night was dwarfed by the size of the crowd that turned out to see Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez the night before in Los Angeles. Look at this. This is Saturday afternoon in LA. The crowd estimated at 36,000 people. Senator Sanders, of course, has spoken to some large crowds in his time as a very high-profile politician. He says he had never before spoken to a crowd of this size. 36,000 people Saturday in the open air outside City Hall in Los Angeles for Senator Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The vanguard of the uncompromising, unapologetic left wing of the Democratic Party, who frankly can rightfully take an I told you so lap around this country, considering their years-long warnings of oligarchy and how letting the billionaires take over would be the end of American democracy. Yeah, man. You are here. And you know, if you are looking at that footage and you're looking at all these fellow Americans protesting against the authoritarian takeover, against the destruction of the government, people trying to defend immigrants who are already fully into the secret police and abductions part of the authoritarian nightmare. You see your fellow Americans trying to shore up the remaining institutions we've got to not give in, to push back. You see people showing up at these events to show their fellow Americans who might be worried or angry or just unhappy with what Trump is doing, to show people that they're not alone. I mean, let's say you're one of this really, really tiny handful of friends in Henderson, Kentucky this weekend, who decided that even though there were only a few of them willing to do it, they were going to get out there on Highway 41 this weekend, and they said they're going to be back there next weekend too, even if it's only this little handful of them who feel brave enough to do. If you're looking at this footage and you're thinking about what all this protest means, large and small, and whether it changes anything, whether it moves the needle, I have just one more thing to show you. Because this was Saturday in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is home, of course, to the most famous and prestigious university in the whole country, Harvard University. This was a stand-up Harvard rally that happened in terrible rain and sleet and cold in Cambridge, Massachusetts on Saturday afternoon. The theme was effectively courage, not capitulation. People are trying to shore up Harvard, to tell them that they've got the gravitas and the weight and the wealth that if they can't lead, who can? That they should not capitulate to Trump's threats, to Trump's demands to let him essentially take over and subjugate the universities. It has thus far been war on international students, war on academic freedom, war on campus free speech. It's been war on government research funding. It's about to be war on university endowments. And so these people turned out on Saturday in the wind and the cold, one protest among a gazillion. But in this case, they were just telling Harvard, don't do it. Don't capitulate, stand up. This was Saturday. And tonight, here's the banner headline in the Boston Globe. Quote, Harvard refuses to comply with Trump's demands, says it won't, quote, allow itself to be taken over by the federal government. And they, of course, knew what that would mean. Here's the headline in the New York Times right now. Headline, Trump administration will freeze $2 billion after Harvard refuses demands. Harvard University said today that it had rejected policy changes requested by the Trump administration, becoming the first university to directly refuse to comply with the administration's demands, setting up a showdown between the federal government and the nation's wealthiest university. The reaction from the Trump administration was swift. On Monday night, officials said they would freeze $2.2 billion in multi-year grants to Harvard, along with one $60 million contract. Other universities have pushed back against the administration's interference in higher education, but Harvard's response, which called the Trump administration's demands illegal, marked a major shift in tone for the nation's most influential school. You know, the law firms that Trump has been extorting, basically, threatening them and then telling them to pay up if they don't want more pain, right? The law firms that Trump has been extorting, according to new reporting in the Wall Street Journal, Trump has been making the law firms negotiate their protection racket extortion deals with Boris Epshteyn, who does not work for the US government. He just works as a kind of personal fixer. I think of him as sort of a universal donor of menacing atmosphere to President Donald Trump and all things that surround him. Boris Epshteyn is under felony indictment in Arizona. He has pled not guilty. He did plead guilty to disorderly conduct in Arizona after he was accused of repeatedly groping women in an Arizona bar. Mr. Epshteyn also denied allegations that he was selling administration jobs in this second Trump term in exchange for cash bribes. But now Trump has him of all people, personally working out the protection deals that he is extorting from the nation's great law firms, where they allow Trump to dictate their policies at the firm, and they agree effectively to pay Trump by giving free legal services to causes he chooses. And in return, apparently Boris promises these firms that the Trump administration's not going to hurt him anymore. He's having Boris do it. That's the kind of deal making we're talking about here. It is straight out of season 1 of The Sopranos. And much like the law firms, colleges have thus far been trying to negotiate their own deals. Not that differently from what we're seeing from all the law firms. But Harvard tonight, the big one, Harvard tonight says no. And they knew what it would mean, and they said no. And they said, we are going to fight. And I don't know what put this steel in their spine to do it. But saying no, we're going to fight was an option for everyone. Harvard has now taken that option, which means that fight at least is on. Cheryl and Eiffel is here tonight. Martin O'Malley is here tonight. So much to come. Stay with us.